What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Bimmer Barn. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace the steering column in your E90 or E92 because the one in my car, unfortunately, it's an early model car, and for that reason it has one of the recalled steering columns which has a steering lock which can fail, and I think that's what happened on my car here because unfortunately I cannot get the steering wheel to unlock even though it doesn't have a fault code. So today we're going to be swapping out my 2006 steering column with the one from my 335i, which is a 2008 model, and in the process maybe we'll figure out what the problem was to begin with. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and without further ado, let's get straight to work. All right, now you're gonna wanna start by removing the battery. That'll be the first thing because we're gonna be removing the airbag and you don't wanna get any fault codes or accidentally trip it, although I don't think that's possible. So to remove the steering wheel, the service instructions say to use a T20 driver and to point it up into these flaps that are on the side of the wheels. They basically give you access to the mechanism, and if you point it up and then swing, it says swing it to one side, then you should unlock the airbag, repeat it on the other side, and then it should come off. So we're gonna try that. And it says put it up 5 centimeters. So that's like 5, that's a lot. So straight up, try the flat head. Oh, there we go. All right, so I use a flat head instead of a T20 to kind of get it in there because I think it's a little skinnier. And then straight up, just go up, oh shoot. Go up until it stops basically. It is about 3 or 4. Oh, there you go. About 4 centimeters up, straight up through those little slits in the side of the wheel, and that'll disengage the airbag. And a little clip behind here. And this is the non-sport airbag, and we're gonna be installing the sport one, which is gonna be a really cool upgrade. So might as well do that at the same time as the column. So here's how the spring mechanism works. You just go up about 3-4 centimeters and then slide this spring in. Same thing on the other side. You come up, you'll hit a wall, and then you swing the screwdriver this way so that it moves that spring inwards, and then you'll get the airbag off. Now we've just gotta put a 16 millimeter on this and we'll be able to pull off the whole wheel. By the way, for those of you trying to remove the M Sport steering wheel to change out your steering column, they do have a similar cut in the side of the wheel here, but instead of poking your flathead up and turning it, you're actually gonna poke it in exactly at a 45-degree angle, and you'll find a little spring and you'll push that spring inwards, and this airbag will come off on one side, and then you repeat, and then you'll get the airbag off, and then you'll have access to that 60 millimeter bolt like we removed. Now I'm gonna pull the wheel off here, but there is a marking on the shaft and on the wheel itself to align the two, and that's why you don't have to make any marking of your own. So when we install any other wheel, you know, the M Sport wheel, for example, it'll be able to line up right there. So we know that the wheel right now, it's perfectly dead straight. So that'll make it easy for us. And now look at how much dirty lint. Oh my goodness, look how dirty that is. Now we've just got to remove the plastic trim panels here, the kicker panel there, and then we'll have access, I think, to all the bolts. And then we should, once we get all those loose, be able to pull this thing out. This lower section here, it's got 2 clips on either side. You kind of have to spread them apart, if I recall correctly, and then press down. Ah, there you go. Try to be careful because you don't want to break it either. There you go. Nice and easy. Put that out of the way. All right, so looking at the steering column, you can see bolt number 1, bolt number 2, and in the back there, bolt number 3 all the way at the back. And the last bolt, can't really see it because of this AC vent right here. I don't think that we're gonna have to remove that. It looks like it's kind of held in by some body foam and insulation and stuff, but if we remove those 4 bolts, that's all that's holding the steering column in. There are, of course, the connectors that we have to remove, and the harness that's routed onto it, we need to disconnect that so it's kind of running, you know, running loose, running free. And then at the back here, you can see the steering shaft. We need to lift up this rubber boot here, I believe, remove and disconnect the steering shaft from the one that's on the outside of the car. And you can do that from in here, although I think we can also have access from outside the car. So don't know which one we'll go with, but we definitely need to get this boot out of the way, and it'll come with the entire steering column. So let's go ahead and I guess try to get those bolts loose and also get that rubber seal off. Oh, that was easy. All right, so I got that pulled up. Can't really access the bolt, it's hard to see, so I'm gonna try to get it actually from the engine bay. It just makes a little more sense that we'd be able to get it from up here because you can almost see the bolt in there. There it is. So there's the bolt down there. It's just, you know, covered up by the AC lines and the coolant lines. If I can get like an extension down there though, that'd be really, really key. Let me see what I can do. So now we've got the bolt, we just kind of lock the extension. So we're gonna try to use a magnet to grab both of them. All right. And that was the bolt going to the ground. And that was the socket going to the ground. There we are. So we got the bolt for the steering shaft disconnected up here. Now we should be able to get the rest of the bolts and get it removed from the car. I think we got it. Oh, it comes with the adjuster too. Oh, something's still on there. Well, I guess that just wants to come off like that. Here we go. Not too bad, honestly. So here we have the steering column, and you'll see that right here is the connector for the steering lock. I'll turn this thing over, and this is the steering lock mechanism right here. So since we're gonna be installing this on the 335, I'm gonna go ahead and disassemble this and disable the lock. So we're gonna disable this and put it on the parts car, but that's a trash car. I would not recommend you do this at home. Yeah, it looks like we have some security bits here. So I hope I have the right bit to get that off.
Moments later.
Well, I don't have the security bits to get these screws off, so I think I'm just gonna have to break this cover off in order to disengage that lock. So if I actually just burn off this tab here, I should be able to pry this thing at least, you know, sort of open. And then we'll be able to mess with the electronics there. All right, so we've got the electronic steering lock out, and this is all it comprises of right here. Here's the actual lock mechanism, and you can see this little switch right here. Basically, when we pull on it, that disengages the lock. And what this mechanism here is meant to do is disengage this little safety mechanism here, and then pull this in. And it's hard to say if it was working or not, because it doesn't look, I can't really tell how this is supposed to be grabbed inside of that cylinder there, because it's supposed to pull on the lock mechanism and disengage. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is, I guess, zip tie this in the unlocked position, and then we'll install it inside the car. Actually, I didn't have to zip tie it. I kind of just jammed it on itself in the unlocked position. And now we can put this box back on right here. And we're gonna put this on the parts car. Again, this is completely trash. If you did this at home, you'd probably get a ton more faults than just by replacing the steering column itself. So we're gonna install this on the parts car and get the new one and put it on our nice E91 335i. Wow, so BMW wasn't kidding when they said that there was no steering lock equipped. So this is so interesting. Let's go get it back in the shop. So there it is. We've got the new steering column out of our 2008 model car, and you can see it literally doesn't have any steering lock. shout out to the subscriber who commented and said that you literally wouldn't have one on the newer columns. And you can see the old one has a little connector. Here we don't have anything. So we're probably gonna have to cut off that connector, mark it, label it, tuck it out of the way. But since the car's already coded, as we saw in the last episode, for not having a steering column lock, now I'm wondering if that's why it wasn't unlocking. So since the new CAS and the new DME were coded to not have the steering lock, and those are the two modules that communicate with it to unlock it, I think that since our car was coded not to have one, it never knew to unlock this thing when we were starting the car. So at the end of the day, we probably could have coded the car and used this feature, but being that these cars had a recall for this and they were replacing them under warranty, I'm glad that we're going with the lockless steering column because it's gonna be more reliable in the future. So now, like I said, I'm gonna take this one, install it in the 335, and then I'll take this one and we're gonna install it back inside of my E91, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So once we've got the steering column in, it's really just about getting those 4 bolts on. This is probably one of the simpler steering columns to install. Some of the BMW ones, like the older ones, you actually had to break off what were called shear bolts, and they were like one-time use installed from factory because they didn't want you changing the steering columns, and I think because it was like stronger than a normal bolt or something like that. But clearly, nowadays they were smart. And this one's actually really easy to change, like I said. You don't even need a wobble extension for these bolts, just a straight extension, it fits through. So I think that means that this connector right here, we should be able to just cut it off since it's for the steering lock and we don't use that anymore. We're done installing this, just need to put the trim panels back up, connect this is the steering angle sensor and the buttons up here, and then we're gonna install the M Sport steering wheel, which is gonna look really cool, and then we'll finally have a working steering system. And of course, you can't forget this bolt right here. Oh yeah. Now that is looking good. Check out this steering wheel, M Sport, baby. And we still have to do the sports seat, which is gonna be a really cool upgrade. So once you've got your battery connected, you can go ahead and grab your key, put it in the ignition, and assuming that everything went well, you know, hopefully the airbag doesn't blow up on you, but it looks like you just upgraded your steering column, or maybe you just had to change it out. But in my case, I went from the steering column that has a lock to the one that doesn't. And if you are doing this upgrade at home, then you're gonna wanna code out that steering column lock by the CAS module, and that way the car doesn't throw a fault when it realizes that it's not there anymore. Now, this was the limiting factor to get my car driving today, so stay tuned for the next episode of the wagon build, because we're gonna get this thing on a nice set of wheels and we'll have it driving around the neighborhood, and then eventually we'll have to do an exhaust, but for now I think we can drive it open down pipe. If you enjoy this sort of content, be sure to leave a like or a comment down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't yet. And as always, I hope everyone has an awesome day. We'll see you next time.